couple things we can do. We can create a calculated field, right? And it can simply be survived greater than 0, and that'll be true if they survived and false if they died. I'm not going to create that because what I want to demonstrate is creating a set. So we're going to create a set, and I'm going to call it casualty. If I spelled that right, casualty. And I'm going to say that it includes all the zeros, all the ones that died. And let's put this in here, okay. And now if I drop this in here as a text, come on, casualty, where did it go? There it is, casualty as a set, drop it in, and it says in and out, right? So zeros are all my ins, one is all my outs, and I can even go in and I can edit this alias. So let's see if I can edit the set, and I should be able to edit the alias. Let's see. Aliases, right? So right now the alias is simply as value. So if I did casualty and just said yes. Oh. Huh. Okay. Select it should cancel. It should have aliases. No. Clear aliases. And that's weird. You are supposed to be able to set an alias for those in and outs. But regardless, the whole point of this is sets create yes/no conditions, Boolean conditions, and so we've essentially created a Boolean condition that is opposite to survived. It's casualty. So I'm going to delete this. So that's the first part. You can create more complicated sets. You can create sets based off of calculated conditions so there can be dynamically updated. You can create them based off of aggregates. So you can create sets that are, top five selling categories that are currently displayed on your that are currently displayed. When we did race charts and displayed just the top 5 or top 10 in the race chart, we could have created a set to do the filtering. One of the primary uses of a set is to carry filtering on through multiple, instead of having to recreate your filters every time, you just create one set that represents your filter, drop it into filters, and then that will work. So let's just demonstrate that. I'm going to duplicate this Maremenko chart, and I'm going to just say filter by casualty, and it breaks the chart, but it's filtering right now. So I can show the filter, and it's currently setting up that, and I believe I can show in-out set. That's what I want. So what this does is if I hit both, right, it's got everybody. If I show the filter, and in is all the casualties. So I click on this, and those are the casualties. Out are the survivors. I just allow outs, and that's all the survivors. So what this would allow me to do is I can create multiple charts and use this criteria identically across all of them and know that I've got the same filter. What can happen with more complicated displays is that you can end up with like multiple filters that you want to carry over from chart to chart, and this is where like a set really comes in powerfully, right? Because you can create one set that represents the filtering that you want to do. Any questions about creating filters? It's almost identical to creating. We could have created one on class and department, right? So I could have create a set called simply passenger, no plural it just for fun, passengers, and I'll just say 1, 2, 3, and hit OK. And now that's set, that's exactly the same as this boolean, and we can actually prove this to ourselves. Let's drop is passengers on here, and then we can drop our passenger set like this, and you can see it says passengers false is also the output set, and account like this. The other way we can verify this is going like this, and we can see that it's perfectly diagonal, indicating that they align perfectly. So that's a couple of examples of creating sets. Now, you can also use sets for coloring and filtering. So one of the things I'm going to do is we're going to create a demographic pyramid by survival. So I'm rename this demographic pyramid by survival. And to create a demographic pyramid, let's see did I create the histogram yet? Nope, I did not. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bin, and I'm going to make it 5-year age bins. Hit OK. So I've got my age bin 2. Oh, why do I go? Let's delete this, and I'm going to rename this. I'm just going to call it ages, age bins.
So why did you delete it?
Oh, just because I created it earlier. I did.
So, but we created, so we have to just.
Yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate creating it. So I've got these age bins that I'm going to turn into columns, and I'm going to make them continuous. And then all I want to do is put in the counts. Right? So that's my breakdown of ages. But it would be nice to have this done by the gender. So I'm going to create 2 rows. And we've got the males on the bottom and the females on the top. And to create an actual pyramid, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the axis, and I'm going to have it reversed. Oh. No. Reset. Should be able to edit just that one axis. No, I was going to do both of them. Okay, so that way didn't work. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a numerical trick for creating a demographic pyramid on a single pane.
Can you show this workbook? It's different from the one that you showed yesterday.
Yes, this is the, I did I not post it up? Oh, here we go, post. There we go, sorry. I just posted it up. So, we've got age bins, and what I want to do is I want to have the female demographics set on the top and the male demographics set on the bottom. And then finally I'll end up coloring by casualty, by that yes/no field. So I'm going to use a little numerical trick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a calculated field based off of the sex. Create calculated field. I'm going to call it gender pyramid. And I'm going to use an inline if to do it. Inline if. if it's, if the sex is female, I'm gonna return a positive one, and otherwise I'll return a negative one. And hit OK.
So, just,
Now, what does this allow me to do? I've got a number. For every record that's female, it says 1, and for every record that's male, it says -1. If I add those up and split this on gender, I'll end up with positive values for women and negative values for
so
men.
can you tell me the formula for this?
Yeah.
If
If the gender is female, return 1, otherwise return -1.
okay.
Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replace my count with a sum, and then I'm gonna put in the actual gender as a level of detail. And now what we have is our 5-year age bins with males broken down here and females broken down above. The next thing I want to do for the survival demographic is I'm going to put in my casualty. I'm going to color by it. And, oh, perfect. So the grays represent survivors. We could, what colors could we use? We could edit colors, and we could say our survivors are green, and our fatalities are gray, for example. Apply, okay.
What is the in-out count, sir, that one?
What is the in-out?
The color one?
Yeah, so the in-out is based off of the set we created called casualty. Right, so I just dragged the set casualty into the in-outs, and I created that. So the point of this illustration is to show the obvious that proportionally far more women survive than men. What I want to do is be able to refilter this based off of either the port or the class that they were traveling with, and have this updated based off of clicking on a separate diagram. So I'm going to create two what's called tree maps. Tree maps are useful for showing proportions. And I'm going to, after I create the tree maps, I'm going to create some actions to create some interactivity so that the views, the worksheets, are linked together. Right now, this just gives bare survival. Right? There's no sense of what cities people came from or anything like that. So I'm going to rename this. I'm going to say port proportions. Tree maps, we haven't covered them yet. They're very straightforward to do. All it is it just takes up a bunch of space and divides up that space in proportion to how many things are there. So a tree map is simply called a, where is it? It's not a circle or a shape. I think it'll just be automatic. So for a tree map, we put the size as the count, and then what we need is we want to break things down by the port that they joined by. So I'm going to go down to their voyage, and I'm going to say joined by is the color, and that's it. This is what's called a tree map. So we have each port here, and
so you put the voyage in the color?
Yep. And the count under the size, and it automatically selected square. If I selected circle, it becomes a bubble map, right? A proportions bubble map, which also works. If I select square, it's a square proportions map. So and we can do like nice formatting and editing to actually show the labels. So I could say joined and count are part of a label, for example. Show mark labels, there we go. Remove those, I can edit, no, I can't edit there. So a tree map, all it does is it just tells you your proportions visually, because the human eye is pretty good at comparing areas, right? So what's hard, the big failing of a tree map is that the areas are proportional. The human eye does tend to look more at linear scales, so it doesn't quite make up for the fact that the proportions, scale quadratically because it's an area. However, it is nice. It is pleasant for making clickable views. So I'm going to create a second one just by duplicating, and I'm going to call it class proportions. I'm just going to drag and drop class over top of joined. Let's go, where did you go? I need my embart. We'll just drag and drop this. Now, you can only color by one thing at a time, but you can add additional detail, right? So I can take the casualty indicator and say additional detail, and it splits it in half. I can then take the joined and say, give me even more detail, and it breaks things down even further. You can only cut, for whatever reason, in Tableau, you can only color by a single dimension at a time. However, you can color. The restaurant crew should be. I have to fix that. You can subdivide by additional classes or by additional breakdowns. There is a limit to how much visual information you can cram into there. We keep breaking things down further and further. If I added, let's add it. For example, detail, sex as a detail in here, you really start to lose its interpretation and meaning. So I'm gonna take out all these extra details. So I want this to be as transparent as possible. I'm just gonna leave class like this. So the colors map nicely. So this just gives us kind of a breakdown of the different classes. So we've got first, second, third. There's no way to move these around. They are what they are. So one of the neat things that Tableau allows us to do is I can set up what's called an action. And actions allow me to relate behaviors on one, so either hovering, clicking on, or selecting through a menu, to filters and highlighting in another sheet. Okay, so for our first one, what I want to do is I'm going to create an action that filters our demographic pyramid by port without having to create so the point of this is I could put a filter in here, say filter by port, or rather I could put a filter in here and say filter by port and do it that way, but the user doesn't really get a chance to nicely interact with it. So instead, what I can do is I can go in and I can say worksheet, and we'll say actions, and I'm going to add an action. And I'm going to create a filter, and I can use, so the source sheet is the one that drives things. The source sheet is what the user will be clicking on, The target sheet is the sheet that responds, right? So if I click on one sheet, the other sheet can filter, do all sorts of things. So I'm gonna cancel this because I did skip past something. So it says add action. And there are different things I can do. I can force a URL to open. I can cause parameter values to change based off of what they're clicking on. I can change in-out criteria of sets. I can highlight things. In this case, I'm going to create a filter, right? I want to filter my demographic pyramids by values. And I'm going to say filter by port. And right now it's every sheet could be driving this one, but I just want to use the port portions one. So I'll click on this, and I want to filter demographic pyramid by survival. And when this is another critical one. So up top, this allows me to choose how, what drives the action. Whether it's hovering over a value, actually clicking on a value, selecting it, or right-clicking, going to the menu. And finally, the single select only means that you can only pick one thing at a time versus clicking on a bunch, like shift-click. So I'm going to set this to select, so that as soon as I click on something, it filters. And then I'm going to say, when we clear our selections, I want to go back to showing all the filters again. And finally, we need to filter by something. So it's saying all fields, but I want to select a field. And the one I want to select is you select the field that you want to filter by. So I want to select filter by joint. Hit OK, and hit OK. And now let's see what happens when I click on Queenstown. Click on this. It filtered my demographic pyramid. I can show the filter, right? I can go back and I can control click. So now I've got Belfast and Sherbrooke clicked, or I can unclick. It's just got Belfast. Only men, you can see only men joined in Belfast. And then I can unclick again. If I go back, it's now gone to everything. Now, one of the things I might want to do is I can edit the axes, and it goes from 100 down to minus 350. So let's actually fix that so that no matter how much we filter this, it always stays the same. And that way visually we have a consistent comparison, cross-filtering. And edit axis and custom, and we can say fixed end, and we'll say looks like 80 is a good fixed end. All right. And the point of doing this is so that when we do our filtering, so I can click on here, or I can click on here, click on here. The point of that is that we see the actual changes happen, but the axes aren't changing. The reason for that, again, is to maintain a fair illustration of the relative impact of ports. The beauty of this is that when you build a dashboard, you can combine multiple worksheets onto a single dashboard. And so you can end up having these guys driving driving your display, instead of having to have these filters displayed. I can simply have these driving it. So what we can do is we can set up another one called filter by class on the worksheet actions, and we'll add another filter. And this one we want to filter by class. One of the other things about actions is, you can have multiple target sheets and multiple source sheets. So you can actually end up with like sets of sheets interacting with each other. You don't have to build these actions like for one pair of sheets at a time. You can actually build these actions so that multiple sheets are interacting with each other. The only thing is, what a action is specific to is, you can have the sheets all interacting with each other, but your choice of fields that you're filtering by is fixed on the action. So, but I'm just gonna make my life easy, and I'm gonna pick class, and let's see. If I pick all, I think I can pick all here, or do I just control? No, okay. So I'm just gonna make my life easy and just pick one. Now, I wanna select my fields, and this time I'm filtering by class, so I'll simply filter by class department, just like I said I would. Okay, okay. Now let's see what happens when I do class proportions. Third class. Why did that not filter?
Class departments,
Let's see. Worksheet,
Class department.
actions. Oh, right. Okay, so I didn't select. So I didn't say that I wanted this running on a click. Instead, it's set to the default, which is run on a menu. So you can see it's got this filter by class here. That's my menu item, and now it filters. So I can go back here, and I can unclick, and it did not clear the thing. So it's not working in the way that I want it. So I can go into the actions, and I can edit and update this action. So we're gonna go into filter, we're gonna edit. And first off, I don't like menu. Menu's kind of clunky. I'd like the select is really nice. And then finally, clearing the selection, I want to show, basically, show all values says just reset the target sheets. Okay, okay. And now we can try this and clear it. There we go. So, let's see. That is like a high, very, very, oh man, that did not take up enough of the class. I apologize. I was hoping to have more material than that. So that's a very, very high level version of this. Now, again, getting ready for what's going to come at you next semester is we can use this to build dashboards. And the simplest way to build a dashboard is simply by dragging and dropping sheets. So let's delete this, delete. So the way I create a dashboard here is you have a couple ways. You can say dashboard, new dashboard, or you can click the second icon over, which is the new dashboard button. So we'll just create a new dashboard. And it says drop sheets here. Well, how do you know what sheets to drop? Well, you've got the sheets listed on the side here. And you can just drag and drop them over to get what you need. There we go. So one of the things we can do is just drag proportions here, and I'm gonna get rid of this, clean up. Just sort of clean it up. I'm gonna try to make this as nice as possible. It says layout, and let's see, I'm gonna say make it automatic, right? So it fits the all that means is the dashboard fits everything in there. And finally, I'm gonna drag my two filters over that I want to use. So I'm gonna drag my port proportions over to the bottom here. And
Sorry, sir, can you repeat this, please?
yeah, let's delete this. All right, so let's just make sure my layout is nice and clean. Good. All right, so I'm going to delete this guy as well. So I've got.
So we have to take the new sheet, right?
Yeah. So I've got a totally blank and empty dashboard, It's got nothing on it. Now, the thing about dashboards is you can build them to specific sizes. Right, so I can build them to a fixed size, and you can choose various types of sizes like generic desktop, letter portrait, story, embedded web page. However, the downfall of picking a fixed size is that it will stay that size no matter what device you're on, right? You could be looking at it on a phone and it's gonna try to do 800 by 600, you can end up with scroll bars on your phone. So instead, Tableau does offer automatic resizing. Automatic resizing is great in that it resizes to the size of the device. However, you then have to be very cognizant of how proportions work out and how the size. Basically, you don't want anything to be a fixed size if your whole dashboard can move in and out. This is sometimes called a reactive view because it reacts to the size of your device. So the way we get dashboards on there is just through dragging and dropping from the sheets. Or the way we get sheets on there is just dragging and dropping through the sheets. So we can take something like our demographic contours, our demographic pyramid, drag and drop, and it's just sitting there. And you can see it automatically drops a bunch of things on there. The display, but it also drops a container with the colors in there, but I'll just take those out for now because I'll figure out how to illustrate this later on. Now, because I've got two tree maps that I can use to drive the filters, I can drag those over as well. So I can drag the ports into the bottom here, and I'm gonna, again, get rid of this side filter. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the class proportions. I'm going to drag it next to it. I'm going to delete this. And finally, we can, change our proportional size. Something like this. Now here's where the beauty comes in, is we can now, come on, why is that not working? Oh, right. Actions. So if I go to my actions, I now have to fix the, I now have to fix this to run on my dashboard. So right now this is running on the worksheets. I'm going to update this so that filter by port just runs on the port and then runs only on my demographic pyramid. And I want it to filter by joint. There we go. And select menu, show all values. Okay. And I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to revise it to run on my dashboard. And the source is going to be my class, and the target is going to be my dashboard, and it's going to be the demographic pyramid, and the source field is going to be the class department again. Okay. Okay. And now if I click on this, it filters automatically. So that's a brief preview of this, but we can do things like legends. I can color legend, but I don't want to.
Can you show the filters again for the dashboard?
Yeah.
The actions.
Yes. There we go. And show the color of legends. Yes, that's fine. Oh, here we go. Legends, and I want to. Oh no, yes. Oh, that's the wrong. I got that in the wrong place. I want this over here.
So we have to go on legend somewhere?
Okay, you were wondering about how I got the actions to run on the dashboard. So, when you have actions, when you have a dashboard, instead of having the actions run directly on the sheet, right? So we have the source sheets. Instead of having the actions, instead of the source being the sheet itself, you now want the action to be running on the dashboard. And once you have the action running on the dashboard, it then gives you the opportunity to choose the sheets, and you can see these are the sheets that are on the dashboard, right? So it's giving you the opportunity just to pick those. So, and the way you do that is you can see when you click on the source sheets drop down, I can pick, everything, and it's just going to be a big mess of stuff. And it says that things are missing, doesn't work on the worksheets. I can pick individual sheets, but the most important one is, because this is the dashboard we're working on, we've got our dashboard, and then we pick the sheets that we want to use. So I'm going to cancel out of this because I don't want to overwrite it. And then we can double check that the class is doing the same thing. We said okay, and okay, and then the last thing I want to do is I just want to set the legends for this. So I'm going to show the color legend for class department. I'm going to move it over into here. And then I'm going to show the color legend for joined, and I'm going to move it out of the way, all the way to here. There. So that gives a little bit more of the illustration of what we want to look at. So I can pick the band. You can see the band were just men, and they all died. Second class passengers, roughly 14. So what this allows you to do is, you can quite smartly sort of redisplay stuff. If you don't, so let's say that you find that the legend is clunky. So we can go back through. I'm gonna filter these. Here. Wonder why that's grayed out. Oh, why is that still grayed out? That's so weird. So one of the things we can do is we can play around with this display. I can hide for example, hide it doesn't really matter here, hiding it, but what I can do is I can edit the label, and I can actually label by the class department as well. So we'll go in, and we'll grab the class department. Come on, here. Make the label show up. Let's edit the label, alignment, and what we'll do is we'll center like this. And maybe what we can do is change this to circles. So now let's take a look at what it looks like. Oh, that makes it too small on the side. So let's try it like this, and try this, like that. There we go. So now we've got the crew displayed, and I'm just gonna quickly, just need to clear the legend. So I can work on resizing and reproportioning things. I can even hide the titles here. So I can say, don't show the title, just show it like this. Now I'm starting to get something that's like really pretty clean, except for the fact that this, the coloring is still off. I don't know why, what happened there. So let's do the same thing with port proportions. We'll just clean it up to make it a lot nicer. We'll change it to a circle, and we'll put in the joint into the label, and that's fine the way it is. Actually, that works out really nicely. So we take a look at this, and I can hide
Add action.
the title,
Filter.
and now I've got my nice filter working well. Still low. Oh, there we go. Ah, finally, that's better. So once you have this displayed, you can then give it a test, presentation mode. You can see it automatically resizes to fit everything. You can just run through the filters, check that they both work fine. I can filter like this. So I can do Southampton, and I can say, here's the demographic breakdown and survival of third-class passengers from Southampton. And, or I can just do first and second. So that's the demographic breakdown of first, second, and third-class passengers from Southampton. And I can get rid of all my filters here. Come on, there we go. Now I've cleared it back out. So once you get into building dashboards, the thing that I just keep coming back to is perhaps the nicest feature of dashboards is to provide a much cleaner UI for filtering your data or for sorting and highlighting your data. Otherwise, to accomplish the same thing, I'd have to, so we're gonna escape this, I'd have to like, I'd have to say like, show the filter, and then set like, and what the user would get would be like a drop-down box or something they'd have to type into. But in this way, particularly when you have like a limited number of values, like this won't work if you're filtering by, all the cities in North America, right? That's not gonna, even if you're just looking at cities over 100,000 people, that's still gonna be hundreds of things that you're filtering by. So it doesn't work that way. But this does work pretty well for smaller amounts. The other place that this works great for is, I could have turned this into a map of the UK and had a zoomed in map of the UK or of the English Channel with the cities picked out, and then they could have clicked on the cities to be used as a filter. When you're working with, and maybe I'll do that on Thursday, is when we're working with data that's geographically labeled, like the data from Our World in Data, where we have country names, is you can create dashboards where you've got a main thing that you're trying to display. Maybe it's literacy rates, maybe it's infant mortality. You've got some big main graphic that you're trying to display. And then on the side, you can have a clickable map that filters your main graphics. You click on a country and you get just the time course. So maybe it's like a time course of infant mortality over time. And then what you can use that for is you can click on the map and maybe highlight the curve that corresponds to just one country. So we'll just rename this as our survival dashboard. Survival demographics. This, and sure, I'll hide the title on this as well, just to make it really clean. And then finally, dashboard, we can say show title. There. And you can put in explanatory notes and things like that. Any questions about, any more questions about creating actions and specifying actions for sheet interaction versus dashboard interaction? And I realize this is the first time you guys have seen dashboards. There Tableau has tried to strike a balance with being able to easily create a dashboard just through dragging and dropping versus being able to highly customize them carefully using things called layout containers. Inside of the way Tableau is set up their dashboards is using containers, and dashboard containers are almost identical to HTML div tags. So a dashboard container is equivalent to an HTML div tag. And so some of the types of containers are vertically aligned, horizontally aligned, and tiled. So how does this work? Well, they've got a tiled container here, which is the topmost container. You can see it captures everything. Inside of that master tiled container, you have a container that contains vertical elements, and so the top vertical element is the title. The bottom vertical element is a horizontal container of left and right, and that horizontal container contains two horizontal containers. Why does it contain so many? Oh, because we clicked and re-clicked it. You can actually, there we go. And so this is the danger of Tableau, is when you're starting to build dashboards, if you're just like drag and dropping things onto there, it will get like confused. as you can see it did, it created a container inside a container inside a container as it tried to deal with what we were doing. You can actually, I think we can drag and drop things to move them up and down. So if we wanted to move this up a lot, let's see if I can actually combine these. Floating, fixed width, edit width. Well, I can't combine parents and children easily. So if I select this guy, and usually I thought there was a way to move this up to the higher part. So containers allow you to containers allow you to do a couple things. One of the things is that you can use a container to either distribute evenly or to force things to be fixed with. Generally, for reactive displays, when you're going to be resizing, you want to use various combinations of distributing evenly and using proportional sizing. So if I go in here, I think if I check, it's saying use this filter, and there should be, where did, that's the sheet. Should be able to go up. Tiling, it's not fixed width, that's good. So what that means is that the container is changing with the size of the screen, which is great. And it's maintaining the proportions that I set on the screen. The next caveat with containers, where did it go, is floating. So a floating container is no longer grounded to anywhere on the screen. A floating container can just sit anywhere, and you can specify its exact coordinates where you want to sit. Generally, floating containers don't work well with dynamically resizing things, because if you've specified something has to sit right here every single time, and the screen gets resized to be smaller, it's still going to be sitting in the same spot, and you'll lose that little icon. floating containers only work really well when you know your screen size is never gonna change and you're only illustrating for one screen size. And like a classic example of the floating container is a login box, right? That pop up, or some reference item. There are, on top of the actions that are available inside of dashboards, you can build additional animations and illustrations in there, including prompts. So you can actually get quite complicated and interactive with dashboards, including pulling in resources from other parts of the web. I'm going to wrap it up there, and I just wanted to give you guys sort of a first shot, a first look at what dashboards are, and you know, get a sense of what we can do with them. There's a lot more we can do. We can, if we go back to the dashboard, we can add different elements, extra text, navigation elements. You can actually structure your dashboards so that they have multiple pages that you can flip through and be expanding and hiding pages on the fly. So you can make dashboards into like a storytelling device as well. And you can basically imitate tab displays using dashboards. Do all sorts of complicated things. A lot of what you see on the viz of the day is always some form of dashboard. Like all the vizzes of the day, all those examples of really fancy Tableau displays are generally all done with a dashboard. So for example, this dashboard, if we wanted to gussy it up for like a viz of the day, we maybe set the background to be some sort of like ocean blue, and we would get rid of all the extra lines and maybe just have a handful of numbers, and improve the fonts and things like that. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not great at really getting fancy displays, and just taking a look at the colors. Those are glaring colors that we need cleaning up and simplifying to really turn it into something stunning and beautiful. But the point of this was to illustrate using multiple worksheets to interact with each other on the fly. There. All right, I will save this right now and export it and upload it to the current team's environment while we speak. Live, go back to the dashboard.
Any key you have on this project?
Edit teams here. File again.
कुछ नहीं होता यार, पूछने के भी।
हाँ तो at the end.
There we go. All right. I've just uploaded that to Teams for you guys to download and start taking apart and get a sense of interactive. This is just the beginnings of interactivity in Tableau. There's once you start getting into dashboards, there's a lot more that you can do to build out interactive displays in Tableau, and for trying to condense information down into digestible elements. All right, thank you very much. I hope that helps.
Sir, did you change the programming assignment 3?
Oh yes, the programming assignment. Oh man, I meant to cover that in class. Let's take a look at that really quickly. I didn't. Actually, I'll just open it up and I'll just open up the Word document here. I didn't change the assignment itself. What I did is, and I'm working on assessment 4 right now. So the only thing that I did is I just I added a template file because I forgot to do that on leading up to this, and I just made it. Did I spell infections wrong? I just made it more clear what the expectations are. So this bit up top didn't change, right? The link that they had was bad, was dead, so I looked up the new link and got the latest pandas to Excel stable documentation. And then I said, you have to create a surveillance function, encapsulate all this work in a surveillance function. The function should return a data frame, so remember return and like data frame. And as a byproduct of processing, it should also automatically save infections.xls to the same directory that the notebook is in. And
So it should save this export this file. Also, it need to return the data frame.
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
return type
Yeah.
should be like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So, what if I have already submitted? Like, can I resubmit this?
that's why I
Okay,
changed
okay.
the date to this Sunday, because I realized that I wanna make sure all of you, everyone is on a level playing field. So, and it was my mistake, we're not getting the template file up, so we'll just,
Do we need to split it in
Okay.
into the individual functions as you created this template? Like
yes, I want you, not individual functions, you could do individual functions, but all I'm expecting here
Mhm.
is,
Just definitions.
yes, just explain your method for extracting the age, and do just one test. You can do as many tests as you want, but do one test, and by test I mean copy one of the strings from the record, right? And if you're using a regular expression, use a regular expression. If you're counting spaces, count spaces. Whatever your method is, test it once, right? This is like a critical activity in software development, and you saw me do it when we were developing regular expressions for.
So if I will break it into the different individual function, then I will be able to test it with
Yep,
that
yep,
string. So
yep.
I have to do that.
So if you're using a regular expression, just test it once. And remember how in the in-class demonstrations, I did little tests of the regular expressions to make sure they worked. That's all I'm expecting. So you do each of those, and it's basically just prove your regular expressions work, and then finally, once you have all that working, combine it all together into your surveillance function. Make sure it returns a data frame, and you've got here assign the output to a data frame. So your job is to fill in this, and also to what's called unit test. Make sure your extraction techniques work properly ahead of time, because that's a pretty typical activity in software development. It's a little test before trying to get everything big to work. Little tests at a time. And what I'm trying to get at to those 5 little requests is I'm trying to get you guys to break your activities down into smaller bits, right? Break it into small things that you can tackle, and then once you have all the small bits together, combine them into one big bit. Instead of trying to write it all at once and debugging it and saying, oh, where did it break, where did it break? Instead, write it in little bits at a time, and then combine it all together.